And we also had a little email correspondence because I was confused about your time of birth and your ascendant. I'm still confused, but I've chosen this one, which is 24 degrees Capricorn. And I tried to check on that by asking you, did anything happen when you were 7 or 8? And I thought it was not a good thing. And you said, well, yes, when I was 7 or 8, you moved from Argentina to England. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's a massive move. And did you speak English before that?
No.
You got this wonderful English accent. So did you go to a school and everything? Was it because your parents moved?
Yeah. So, I mean, I was there for 5 years. So they were crucial years, obviously. You know, I literally felt like it was home in a way. I really loved it.
And I thought it was going to be difficult because I figured that the IC progressed had activated the Sun-Saturn square. And we get back into that in a little bit, but I think it's pretty good that you actually moved country as that a kind of rectification of this birth time. But I could be wrong, but it looks good. So this is a very interesting chart. There's so many things in it. And are you quite good at astrology? Or?
Yes. I'm a Feng Shui and Chinese astrologer. So,
okay. But you're not a Western astrologer then? Or you do that as well?
I know the basics because, you know, you grow up in the West, and so therefore, but I'm not an expert, you know, I'm not a Western astrologer. I can't, you know.
Okay, great. So, I mean, the first thing, well, there's so many things, but one of the things I think when I look at the chart, you're born with the Uranus-Jupiter conjunction. This was like in 1969, you know, when they landed on the moon, etc. So, you know, it was an enormous technological success and expansion. Actually, I've got a really good story, which I want to share right now, because I have some studio lighting with 3 rather large bulbs, right? And as I was plugging it in, I knocked it over. Now, this is like 20 minutes ago. All 3 bulbs, which are quite expensive bulbs, they all smashed, you know. And I couldn't help laughing because, well, I was angry and then I laughed because this is the moment of the horoscope now, right? You can see that Mercury square Uranus in this horoscope. Maybe you don't realize that, but here's Mercury, and then it's square Uranus. Tomorrow it's exactly square Uranus. It's like sudden electrical events, which is what I experienced. And at the same time, Uranus is moved direct, you know. So in Western astrology, we kind of follow that. And I think yesterday or today, Uranus, instead of being retrograde, started moving direct. Those 2 things show like some sudden events. Now, I wrote a book a long time ago about poor omens and stuff like that, right? And these things that happen before a client comes, even though it's like affecting me personally, reflect something that's happening for the client, right? And you can see that in this second chart, which is the chart for this moment, how it looks in Buenos Aires, right? That there's been a sudden break in communication in your business or professional life, or maybe with your kids or something like that. Has there been anything like that suddenly recently?
No, but today is the Chinese Solar New Year. So I've been moving everything in my house around. That's definitely big dynamic changes, shall we say.
Well, I have a prediction anyway, and that is that because Mercury in this chart, you'll see it's nearly 26 degrees and Uranus is 27. It hasn't happened yet. So prepare yourself for a surprise.
Oh, no.
Yeah, okay. Hopefully sort of interesting. Oh, the point is really that this combination of planets reflects your mind. And you can see from the birth chart with Mercury in Aquarius in the first house, trine Jupiter and Uranus, it's a fantastic, you know, intuitive mind, just perfect for what you're doing, like Chinese astrology and everything like that, because you're just incredibly intuitive and like just gravitate towards, well, you know, heavenly messages, really. So I sort of, it's like the moon landing, right? You're kind of getting a constant stream of enlightening messages, which is a fantastic talent. And it's fun for you, right? It's something that you can do. And it's exhilarating. It's like a kind of bubbly feeling. You must have it in your brain, really. When you get really into that feeling, you get really enthusiastic.
Yeah, I have to say, since I was young, but I think it helped that I'm part Chinese. So, being a mixed person. I have Chinese, Italian, Spanish. And so it's like, I think I was born into this a very Uranus kind of life and family.
Yeah.
So
I just want you to show people what's on the wall behind you.
Oh, it's a screen. It's a Chinese screen.
And they look a bit like samurai warriors to me.
This is like depicting soldiers, training, and then the women. It's a sort of a day in the life of like.
And what I wanted to point out is that in this chart for the moment, there's a Mars-Pluto conjunction in Aquarius. That's like the signature of samurai, really. It's a Mars-Pluto is like in Aquarius, it's like a samurai. And you've also got in your birth chart, Mars in Scorpio in the 10th. So it's sort of repeat from this horary, but that is also like a Mars-Pluto connection. It's really what it reflects is your own samurai spirit, right? So you have this kind of real power, and a power to kind of get victory in your professional life, So you're a tough customer. When you're really going for what you want, nothing gets in the way, right? Do you agree with that?
I'm definitely tough. I'm as tough as they come, I think. Maybe too tough,
Too tough for what exactly?
In my personality, I'm very strong-minded. And so, yeah, it's, very...
But you kind of said too tough, so it sounded like there might be some problems that arose from that.
Well, I find it hard to sometimes get along with people because I'm so strong-minded.
Yeah. So when you say people, do you mean anybody specifically? Or?
Oh, I think in general throughout my life. I mean, in any area of my life, I am very sort of strict with my principles and.
Okay, that sounds like the sun in you're Capricorn rising and the sun in Capricorn square Saturn. So you would be strict with your principles. Where do you think you get that from then?
In terms of what? In terms of oh, well, my father was stern. I'm living in what was his house, so this warrior thing that you see behind. It's not mine. It's his. He was like that. He was a very, very authoritarian person. So
and how did that affect you, do you think?
It was tough because I was a little girl. It wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things you get with this when the sun is square Saturn, you get this kind of feeling that you don't get really recognized. Anything you do is not quite good enough. Do you know that feeling?
That's me. That's totally me.
Yeah.
I think I've suffered from that lack of recognition all my life.
You suffered from a lack of recognition. Yeah. Suffered from a lack of recognition. I suppose this is the sun in the 12th square Saturn, but I'm just going to let some people in. I hope they can come in.
So the sun in the 12th is the reason that you're saying that I haven't been able to get recognition. I didn't know that. Okay.
I think what happens is there's a kind of you kind of internalize the strict father, right? And so you're always playing his role, like undermining or not appreciating what you're capable of and what you do. So whatever you do yourself, it's difficult for you to feel a kind of self-love in that connection. Would that be true? Or?
Yeah, I don't know how you could tell in the chart in terms of the age, but definitely 12 years old was a very hard year for me because that's when we left the UK. And that's where everything sort of changed in my childhood. And I was very unhappy. I mean, I always kind of come back, I don't like stay unhappy for too long, but it was like a year of unhappiness. And then, and I think that also my parents, they were not getting along. And so that caused my father to become estranged with all of us in the family in the sense that he just, he wasn't happy. My mother wasn't, nobody was happy.
Okay, so, that's great because I think it's a really good description of the sun square Saturn. The sun in the 12th is the kind of estranged father. But I don't want to dwell too much on that. It sounds to me like you're pretty good at valuing what you do anyway. I get that impression. As you get older as well, with the Capricorn rising and sun in Capricorn, you get more, well, you realize that you've had it tough and you kind of become very resilient. resilience really comes out in this chart. Okay, I just wanted to sort of move on a little bit though, because it's a nice chart. You know, you've got, I like Mercury in the first house in Aquarius, trying Uranus is this genius, a little bit of a genius there in your field, you know. Whenever you're feeling a little depressed about whether you're good enough, you can always point to all the fantastic work you've done in this area, you know. It's pretty magical, really, you know. So just like when people landed on the moon, everybody got happy. You can be happy about everything that you've done.
That's true. I think just only very recently, really, I think I've realized that I do have some worth and that I need to defend my own sort of worth and value. And I realized that actually, I'm actually good at many things and I'm not, I don't know. I mean, I was put down a lot in my life, true. And I think that, you're right.
So in Western astrology, you know, to have Mars in Scorpio is really strong. This is the samurai spirit you've got. And then Venus in Pisces is supposed to be exalted. It's like the best place for expressing love, really. And they're in harmony. You can see that. I don't know if you can see that, but Mars is 5 degrees and Venus is 5 degrees. It's a very, very harmonious connection between Venus and Mars. There's a lot happening in this area in 2026. So I thought I might just ask you a few things about that. Maybe you don't feel it yet, but maybe you do. That's because...
Can I ask you something? Yeah. These charts that you're putting, the second ones, does that mean that that is the sky for everybody?
Well, if they're sitting in Buenos Aires, yes. And if they're talking to me, yeah.
Okay. So that's for everybody. No. It's not just me.
It is just you.
Oh, okay.
Well, no, it's not. That's what it looked like when we began this conversation. Okay. But there's a kind of tradition in astrology that this is the consultation chart. Hundreds of years ago, that's all people used. So it's an incredibly accurate chart. And it's been illustrated in the last few sessions. I think that the consultation, that's why it's the one chart on the right. That's why it shows exactly your situation, you know, with pictures of samurai behind you on the wall and stuff. But you have to get into this to know that. I mean, there's two kinds of astrologers. There's people who use the consultation chart and get things accurate, and there's people who don't, and they talk more generally.
Interesting. Okay.
So if you have sort of
and so the progress chart is different to this.
Yeah. In fact, I've got the progress chart here. This is the progress chart, and it's worth talking about actually, because I don't want to complicate things, but there's a couple of things I'd like to mention about this. First of all, the progress Mars is at 4 degrees Sagittarius. So as you have Venus at 5 degrees Pisces, progress Mars is going to kind of clash with Venus. And that's about what I'm going to say about that, because Uranus is also going to come and square your Venus. So it's the kind of same thing. So in 2026 and 2027, there's going to be like some disruptions in your relationships. And that's going to be emphasized by the fact that Pluto is going to be square your Mars. So both Venus and Mars in your horoscope get a kind of a unique combination of influences, which is going to change things for you. But talking about Venus specifically, where there will be coming some changes in your relationship situation. What is your relationship situation?
Oh no, I'm single.
Right. In your professional life, do you have any, like, are you in a group at all? Or are you working alone?
I work alone.
It doesn't look like it here. So the consultation chart never lies, but the astrologer can be stupid. So I'm just trying to kind of figure out, because you've been very close to somebody. Is that you've got kids, right?
No.
No kids.
Never been married.
All right. So Mercury has been conjoining Venus, and that's like really kind of nice.
Yes, I have.
Are you close to a sister or brother?
I'm not close to any of them.
Okay. Well, I think this shows some alienation. Maybe it just shows your situation then, that you kind of have do you have an international profile then with your work?
An international profile, yeah.
You work in Spanish, English?
Yeah, mostly English.
I see. So you are part of a large group, but do you have followers in that?
Not that many, but I have a little like Facebook group that I kind of post things on, but That's the extent of it. I'm very active on Facebook, but I post other stuff that's not related to work. It's just,
Okay. So do you have some good friends on Facebook?
Yeah, all of my friends are on Facebook because unfortunately I'm not living here. I'm living here because I was stranded during COVID and then I couldn't go back home to where I used to live, which was South Africa. So,
wow. Okay, amazing. I was going to ask you about COVID actually, because in 2020, was it, or 21 or 2? Yeah, 22, was it? There was a massive conjunction of Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars on your ascendant. So I think that might have been a very difficult period. So that was the time.
It all started in 2019. 2019, it started. Then 2020 was COVID. I was stranded in Italy for a year. I was there literally when it started.
Okay, fantastic.
And then I managed to leave Italy because it opened up and I came here. And then this country closed down. I was stuck in 2 countries, during COVID until the end of 2020, because they only opened up in 2021, late 2021.
Right, and I think astrologers who would follow the movement of Pluto would see Pluto hitting your sun first in 2019 and then going over your ascendant with a mass of other planets. So it's amazing disruption. And that pretty much confirms the birth time, by the way, with the 24 degrees Capricorn rising.
Well, yeah. And 2022 was the year that my mother, I couldn't go back home because my mother had 2 strokes. Okay. And so she was my only living parent. And so I had to take care of her because I was living with her. And it kind of changed everything in my life. I mean, it had already started changing. It was just that was the culmination, like the end.
So you don't have a relationship, you don't have kids, and yet, all these changes are going to take place in 2026 and 2027. In connection with opportunities presenting themselves, I should say, in 2026 and 27. So I'm just wondering what they are, really. I think that it might be a time when there is a relationship. Is that ruled out?
Is it a change?
It's a change.
Oh.
So if you don't have a relationship, what's the change going to be? I mean, I think, first of all, something might happen with this Facebook group. That's the unpredictable thing. I'm not sure about the relationship.
I'm trying to move back either to South Africa or to Italy, which is my other citizenship that I have. So I don't know. I mean, that's my aim. So I don't know if that will change maybe my environment. I don't know if it's kind of...
Yeah. I think, there will probably be a move within a year. That's what's going to happen. And the reason I say that for people, it's because the MC in an IC axis is going to change. It's going to change sign in 1 degree. So that is the indication, I think, that there will be a move, actually. Yeah.
Does it say, can you tell where? Can you tell where I'm going to move to?
Right. Well, yeah. So in your birth horoscope, you've got this thing where you're kind of mixed, like you've got roots in China. Well, yeah, some roots in China. You've got roots in Italy. You've got roots in Argentina. You've got roots in South Africa. And this, I think, is kind of shown by like 4 planets in the 9th house of travel, and specifically by the moon, which is conjoining Pluto. And the Moon-Pluto in the moon in the 9th shows living in different countries, mostly. And then when the moon's conjoining Pluto, it shows getting uprooted constantly, So there's a constantly getting uprooted. And you're very good at it, So you get uprooted and you put roots down. You get uprooted, you put roots down. Yeah. But you say, well, you could sort of say the disadvantage in that is that you're rootless in a sense. Yeah. There's our advantages, though, and also on a kind of more philosophical level about attachment, that you're not going to be like, that's probably why you don't make attachments, that you've been ripped up from your roots so many times. So these places, the 9th house could show like where you go, I guess, and one place is like exotic and the other place is difficult. Moon-Pluto sounds like difficult. I'm not sure, I just don't know enough about countries. But the Moon-Pluto reminds me of Italy because of the mafia. But, well, I suppose they don't exist much anymore. But, so I wouldn't advise Italy, really. But I'm not good enough to know the answer to which country, I don't think. You see, Pluto's going to come square Mars, so you're going to get into a situation where you're fighting for your survival, which you're very good at, just like a samurai is, so that's one thing. And Uranus is going to come square Venus, so you're meeting a whole lot of new people who is just like disruptive, So I suppose this relocation is just going to bring about a whole new set of challenges socially, economically, and in terms of trying to put down roots wherever it happens to be. It could be Italy, I suppose. Is that the plan, Italy or South Africa?
South Africa is the idea.
Well, actually, I think Moon-Pluto has more to do with South Africa, but I'm not sure that means you're going to move. Yeah, because Pluto is related to Africa, often.
I'm the only thing that's been going through my mind is it's been now like 5 years since I've been back, and I feel like all my friends are there, but it's been 5 years.
All your friends are in South Africa?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm wondering if I'll be really disappointed because people have changed and life is different. It's been hectic years, so it's not like everything's the same anywhere in the world. So I don't know. I'm just wondering if it'll be worth it. I want to go back to how it was, but I don't know if it's going to be like that.
I don't think anything, as you say, is like it was, and it never will be again, because there's so many changes happening also astrologically at the moment, right? And it's never going to go back to how it was. So there's going to be some disruption. I'm sure you can handle it. Okay. So what else is important for you?
Well, this thing about having been single all my life, I'm really sick of it. And I just want to be able to settle down. In fact, I feel like this is the thing. I feel like I'm done with the way my life has always been, how I was brought up, and the lifestyle that my family had and everything. And I was a product of that. So now I feel like I want to do what I want to do, and which is to settle down and to have a family, however, I don't know what I can manage at this stage of my life, but to be more traditional and have something more traditional than this whole, everybody loves how adventurous my life is. I feel like
my thoughts about that are, all these planets you have in the ninth house, which is like foreign countries, they're kind of grouped around the south node of the moon. And the south node of the moon is conjoining Uranus. And that, if you believe in karma, that would sort of show a kind of a karmic propensity to travel around and be in many different countries. But it doesn't show the path to happiness. I mean, according to teachings about the nodes, the north node is like the way forward, right? And the north node is in the third house. So when the north node is in the third house, it's not international relations that are important. It's local relationships, the local relationships, building up a local network, not so much an international network. So it's like, what happens when you get out of your house? Who do you meet? Who's your neighbors? That kind of thing. And so that's one element of that. The other element is that with the North Node in Aries and Mars in Scorpio, your professional life is an important thing. That's where your magical ability to sort of create magic in your world, I think that's what gives satisfaction. And you have this Mars-Venus trine you've got. It's really kind of beautiful. And I'm just wondering how that works, because you'd expect it actually with that to be quite romantic.
I'm very idealistic, because I think there's Neptune somewhere or something.
Somewhere, somewhere. But that's not what makes you idealistic. I think it's Venus in Pisces that makes you idealistic.
Yeah, and I think that I would be a great wife, and but I don't know. I haven't been able to find the right person.
Right, and I have a couple of questions about that actually, because people who are born in January 1969, there's an extraordinary development in their lives in connection with relationships, and that's because Venus. Well, I'm just going to let the cat in. It just makes me. Venus is ruling cats, actually.
Ah.
Yeah. So it's because Venus goes retrograde during the course of their lives. Now, it hasn't gone retrograde for you yet, but what I'm curious about is because what happens is the Venus progresses to Saturn, and then it goes retrograde, and it goes back on Saturn, And basically, Saturn and Venus are then kind of knitted together for the rest of your life. Anyway, the first meeting of Venus and Saturn was just about 10 years ago. Well, you were 46. So 46, what's that, 2015? Around about 2015. Did you meet anybody at that point? So 2014, 15, 16? So an older person, perhaps?
That was romantic?
Well, that's my first attempt. Yeah, romantic.
Oh, no. I mean, maybe, okay, well, maybe, yes, I met someone. I was with someone who was older around that time. It was just very short-lived.
How much older was this person?
It must have been something like maybe, I don't know, 7 or 8 years older.
I see.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm not sure if I'm going on a wrong track here, but what went wrong in that relationship?
Well,
did you feel that you weren't getting the attention and love that you hoped for? I mean, do you feel frustrated in that?
Well, that's a recurring theme. Like, that's always been the case with any person I've been.
Okay, let's look at that then. I think that's a good thing we can use a little time on. So in your birth horoscope, I've drawn it in here with this dotted line. Got Venus in the middle of Saturn and the Sun. It's actually semi-square. Venus is in the middle of that. So it kind of channels the lack of self-confidence or self-esteem that was evoked through your relationship with the family growing up, right? What normally happens with that is that there's a sort of sense that it's because you have developed a defensive network or defensive shield where you don't want to get rejected, or that people actually might have difficulty getting through and showing. That's my first theory anyway. What do you think?
Yes, absolutely.
So you've got some kind of defensive mechanism. How does that work then?
I used to go for men who were very unpredictable, who were fun, exciting, but it just never works with people like that. So, because they're not the settling kind. So it was always a dead end, always.
I was more thinking about the protective mechanism that you established to prevent you from getting hurt or disappointed. What is that mechanism, and how do you identify it now?
Well, I think I just shut people off. Like
how do you shut someone off? What happens exactly?
I just break up with them
at the end. But actually, I think the shutting off is more like that you pretend that you're not hurt by the lack of attention or love.
Oh, no, because like you said, my Mars is so strong. Nobody's going to be playing around with me. Nobody's going to be doing anything to me because that would make me a fool. But
I think, just a little advice then about the love bit. You're going to have to show that. If you're really strong, like a samurai, you're not going to have a problem showing your vulnerability. Because I think that you need to show, this is, up to you, but, it would help to show how easily you feel rejected and disappointed. You got to sort of say, oh, it's like a filter, you got it from your parents, really. You get that, and then you go cool, then you go into samurai mode, right? Suddenly there's something else happening, right? But there has to be a kind of openness about vulnerability, because you're not going to get, it's only going to get better if you are open.
Yeah.
There's another thing though, and because when you go into the Mars mode, something else happens. And the reason for that is that you've got Mars and Scorpio square Mercury, and actually this moon is pretty much connected with that through some aspects. So it's like Moon, Mercury, Mars, or Pluto, a little bit Pluto, Moon, Mercury, Mars. That's tough, So then the speech, the communication is really a little hard. In other words, you say things you might later regret. You really dominate the conversation. Is that true, or is that too hard?
No, not really. I think I get angry, but I don't say things that I would regret. No, I don't regret anything.
So the kind of longer the relationship kind of develops into having discussions, which get tiring. Doesn't go like that.
I will recriminate someone for what they've done, and maybe like it's not I think it's more, it's more like not confrontational, but more like, you know, I know what you've done, you're a bad person, whatever. And I don't really want anything to do. And that's it. You know, it's kind of like there's no discussion because I've made up my mind. I think I'm very quick at making up my mind about things.
Yeah. So there's no discussion.
Yeah.
This is uncompromising, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You see in your horoscope, it's too tough. Because there's also some anger in it. Do you feel that?
Yeah.
But it's kind of volcanic, you know what I mean? It's a bit over the top. Do you recognize that?
Yeah, I think that is how I defend myself, because in a way it's helped me, because I would have ended up with people who were just not right, you know. But so I don't regret anything.
But I'm pointing this out because you haven't ended up with anybody, right? But you'd like to.
Yes, but I think that the person, maybe it doesn't, what I need maybe doesn't exist. I don't know, but I haven't met them. So it's because I know that, I mean, I have met someone, but again, he's just unfortunately not fully exactly what you know I would need, because he's a perfect, I mean, I love the person very much, but he's not able to, because he's sort of autistic. He's on the spectrum, so he can't express any feelings. So I feel like that's the opposite of what I need, you know. I mean, he's a wonderful person, but he's so I can't really bank on him at all. And so I don't know. I mean, if there's
And is that a recent development?
that was, yes, it started in 2018, 19.
Around the same time as all the trouble. So is he local or?
He's South African.
So if you went to South Africa, you'd reconnect with this person, is that true?
I don't think that I should focus on him, because I don't think that he has what I need. And I mean, it's not something like that's just psychological. I think this, you know, with people on the spectrum, it's innate. Like, it's not something that you can change or that can improve.
So you want to improve that? Or, I mean, what is it that you like? And the reason I'm asking is because in astrology, the seventh house ruler, I'll show you on this, the seventh house ruler is the moon. And the moon's conjoining Pluto. That's a kind of, it doesn't have to be autistic, but it's in your partner's third house, which is communication. So, you know, it might be okay for you to have a relationship with somebody who's a little compulsive and, you know, maybe a little bit, what do you call it, when people repeat everything they do all the time.
He's not like that. He's fully functional. He's not like you see in the movies. He's on the spectrum. So basically it's someone that you wouldn't know that he is. He's just someone
what's
who's
the problem then?
They don't have
What's
capacity.
The problem for you? You know,
well, he doesn't have the capacity to show emotion. So he hasn't got that built in because of his issues.
But something must happen in the relationship, right, to have made it interesting for you.
Yes, because he's a wonderful person. He's got lots of beautiful qualities. But like I say, he's not able to provide emotional support or any kind of emotionally, he is unavailable.
Isn't this an exact description of your mother, really?
What?
Yeah, she was emotionally unavailable.
Yes, my father.
So you're pretty good at it. I mean, you're good at dealing with these people, helping.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Of course you are.
I'm not.
You're an expert at helping people like this.
Yes, and I'm even studying like psychology because I find it so fascinating. But I'm not. I mean, as a partner, I want someone who is able to actually even.
Right. So maybe you need somebody who's a total challenge.
Oh, I think I've had those all my life. I think that's all I've had. They're all.
Okay, I'm not convincing you. It's okay.
I can tell that he's not going to make me happy because that's why I broke up. I mean, we were kind of together, long distance, but then when I needed him emotionally, he wasn't there. So.
But that's also a good description of your relationship to your mother and father.
Right. And so I don't want any more of that. I think, like you say, I deserve something better. And I think that's been.
But you're good at handling this situation.
No, I don't think so. I think it's been very difficult for me. Very difficult. Very painful. And no, I mean, yeah. If only I often wish that I'd been born to other families, because it's just been so awful, you know.
Right. But so you're into Chinese astrology, and you said something else as well, something else that you worked with.
Feng Shui.
Feng Shui. Okay.
It's all Chinese.
Does China have a kind of karma concept? Like, do they talk about karma?
A little bit. The Chinese are very sort of down to earth. Like I mean, even though it's all Chinese metaphysics, there's I don't know, culturally they're not quite as spiritual as the Indians.
And what do you personally think about karma? You were brought up with these parents, traveled in that, so that, and you described it as being very difficult. So what is your view about why that should have been the case?
I think obviously I was born into this karmic kind of family, like you said. This life for me has been about discovering this in time for me to correct things. I feel like I'm in a phase of correction of injustices and things like that. So I feel like the whole healing part of this bad karma is what I'm starting to understand, because up until a few years ago, I never thought that I had bad karma, but now I realize how bad it was.
Right. So I was just thinking, it's just like looking at your chart. If you take this ascendant ruler and the descendant ruler, I'm a little naughty with astrology because when the moon's the descendant ruler, I kind of like to look at the sun as well. And you've got a Sun-Saturn square, so, and you haven't had a long-term relationship. And I'm thinking it's related to that Sun-Saturn square, which is this karma, the bad karma idea, right? So actually, if you were took a Buddhist view, I suppose, you'd be saying, it's okay to take on a really difficult challenge in a relationship, because that's like a way of dealing with it, dealing with the karmic situation. And I'm saying that to recommend, you have met somebody which was significant. So, that might be good to redevelop a little bit. And I believe, anyway, the next 2 years, you will be in a relationship which will be a little bit sort of long distance sometimes, at least, but also a very awakening, sexually awakening relationship, that's for sure. And that's important, that's important for your development.
I hope so. I'm always hopeful, but I think wherever I go is where I'm going to find this person. That's why I feel like it's so important for me to go to the right place.
Well, I would try South Africa then.
Okay. So just South Africa again. Okay, good.